hi, welcome. Oh, and you got a kitty. I had to shut my
This is
door because Bucky
well,
was running around
yeah.
playing with cables.
Every time go on the air, this is Tara Jr. I usually I try to put him in the bedroom, but he must know. I guess it's because I start talking or something, and I guess he
Yeah.
feels like he wants to get in on it, and he starts tapping my leg like, "Hey, let me up, let me up."
Uh-huh. Well,
So
yeah.
here he is, Tara
It's like
Jr. Jr.
when I would practice singing in the house, whenever I'm alone in the house and I practice singing, Chud would think I was being harmed, why I'm making loud
Oh,
noises. And so she would come over and
okay,
sit next to me and like, ow, ow. Like the only
right.
time she ever meowed was like, are you okay? Are you okay?
Right. What's happening?
Right.
This is very confusing.
That's right. So day three-ish of the government shutdown, our
Uh-huh.
the record is
Yeah.
35. So Trump always looks to beat somebody else's record, I think. And
Mm.
right now we're dealing with the fact that it seems to be a big game of chicken about whether Trump can decimate programs
Yep.
that have been set up by Democrats that he calls Democrat agencies or Democrat programs,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
which by and large help red states, which may be the very reason why he might have a difficulty actually pulling this off.
Yeah. The most people, the people getting harmed the most, I should say, are those who live in red states. They're already harmed by Republican policies. And I want the Democrats to start adopting the qualifier poorly run in front of every time that they talk about a red state. Poorly run red state,
Mm-hmm.
poorly run West Virginia, poorly run. This is what you got to do. You have to win the messaging game. Not only because it works, it's because it's the truth too. Because I'm so sick of these red states and
Yeah.
these Republicans who don't give a shit about their constituents, and I all they give them are anti-trans bills,
Right.
othering people. The Republican Party's mantra should be let them eat hate, because you're on
Right.
your own other than that, right? And that's just, they sicken every place that they are in control of. They sicken it, they weaken it. People are less healthy, they're less apt to be able to go to a doctor.
Right.
They are on poverty wages. All of and their environment is completely co-opted by corporations who I mean, I'm just really
Poison the
sick
water.
of.
Yeah, like the
Yes.
environment. Like, and again, we would, Trump did that complaint about how America's 47th in the world education wise. Well, if you cut out six red
Yes.
states, we're fourth.
Right. That's the problem.
Uh,
These are the albatrosses around our national neck, and we have to call it out. I'm
yeah.
really tired of it. I'm tired of Democrats. I mean,
Hmm.
everybody complains about the Democratic messaging game, and I do as well. Only because I want to. I want the Democrats to start fighting.
Well,
Listen,
okay.
first of all,
Do you
mm, mm,
a couple things? One is, do you think? Because I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes because I watch
yeah,
Democrats coming out and saying the stuff that everybody says. I wish they would say
yes,
this, and they actually
right.
are. It just doesn't get the press,
It doesn't
or
get covered, right?
even the pundits on that are allegedly on our side of the aisle, and on MSNBC.
Yep.
I literally saw someone. They played a clip of Hakeem Jeffries speaking, and the person that they cut to afterwards and so was like, thoughts, response, whatever.
Right.
I wish he would say this when he literally
You
just
can't win.
said
You
it.
can't win.
And
Mhm.
so they are coming after. I think there may be, and this has got to be some way. We got to differentiate. Maybe it's states versus states,
Mhm.
and we got to do a little bit of that like basketball team kind of rivalry stuff where
Yeah.
they're afraid to mock red states because each of their states has a rural district that's sort of a red
Yep.
state within it. Illinois, California, they have these areas that are rural, but they do a lot better than, say, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, those states, because they have the funding from San Francisco and Los
Yeah.
Angeles and stuff backing them up. And
Exactly.
it's direct state funds. And so there might be something to be said about start to play up the red districts in your own state as a blue state. Start
Mm-hmm.
celebrating the fact that they're not falling behind, that they have better
Right.
scores and
Yeah,
stuff
there's
when they do
right.
because of the funding they get from Chicago.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, it's just the selfishness that really irritates me, how the Republicans in these red states, they suck on the government teat, but they have no manners, decency, maturity to say thank you. They can't even
Right.
say the name of the Democratic Party. And I don't know if we've talked about this
Yeah.
before. I think we have, but it drives me up the friggin' wall, and it's all
Right.
over the place. It's normalized now. How
Mm-hmm.
how is this normalized? And to me, it does matter. It
Yeah.
says if you can't stand up for your name, your how are you going to stand up for the
Yeah.
really tough things,
Yeah.
And
Right.
because they define everything. They define the conversation, and they're so insincere. You're negotiating with these people. They don't give a shit. They're liars. They don't care about their constituents. They're happy to hurt them, which is almost it's like a surrealistic nightmare watching Republicans go on about how, well, now we get to hurt these people we really
Right.
wanted to hurt all along, the federal
Hold on.
government
There's a.
workers,
Oh.
as if they're not, our fellow Americans.
Right.
We deserve better than this. We do deserve a functioning bureaucracy. That's a
Mm-hmm.
hallmark of a civilized society and a
Yeah.
democracy. Like when you call up the Social Security Administration, there should be somebody who picks up on the first ring and
Yeah.
addresses your problems,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a shining city on a hill, one that functions, but not here. They want to destroy it all. And it has to,
Okay,
I
so
do think, yeah.
I'll
Hmm.
part of the conversation that I deal with when I watch all these right wingers, because I see way more of them than any human should have to,
Oh,
that isn't all in on this
I'm
stuff, obviously.
sorry.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and what I will say is that they are deluded as they may be, mistaken, and I would say their common sense is actually common misconception, that they are
Mm,
lost in
yep.
this idea. They think they are saving the country. That's
That's
the
true.
issue.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
that they want to destroy the country.
Hmm.
It's that they
Right.
think Social Security is
Yeah.
why there's so much crime. I'm not kidding.
Well,
It
and they
seems
think that people
nuts.
are taking advantage.
Right,
That's what it is.
exactly. Yes.
They're all on public assistance of some form, but it's the others who are abusing it, and we
Right.
all know who those are, right?
Right.
It's the because they divide and conquer,
As
and that's what
like
the
the Chris Rock
Republicans
thing
are
about how many
good at it.
like poor white people there are in the country who are on welfare are more by a factor of 3 than there are
Yes.
black people in the country.
That's right, and it's by percentage points more. It's not
Yes.
just the numbers,
Right.
It's by their
Per capita.
population. More
Right.
people, right, per capita. More white people are on public assistance than people of darker pigment.
Right.
I mean, it's just so ridiculous. And for a party that sees conspiracies under every rock, they don't see the oldest conspiracies right in front of their friggin' face, and that is make the rich richer by dividing and conquering, especially
Mhm.
along racial lines. This goes back to 1619 and before. It goes back to recorded history, really.
Right.
How
Nobody
because
invented
they
it.
pitted
Right.
the indentured servants when Westerns. Colonists came over. They pitted the indentured servants against those who were enslaved because
Mhm.
there was more indentured servants and people who were enslaved. So their worst fear was them getting together and turning on the lords. And so they started to pit them against each other so they wouldn't unify by, giving
Yeah,
the
that
indentured servants
yeah,
just a
part of
little
that's
bit more.
I'll push back on that a little bit because like that's largely a geographical aspect of it, that the
Hmm.
indentured servants were by and large brought to the Northeast, and the like chattel slavery was largely in the South,
Yep.
although some elements of it spread to the North. There was such an abolitionist movement in the North that they
Yes.
eventually pushed it down. Virginia was the border region effectively of it, and it's where the true birth of the abolitionist movement really took hold and the
Mm,
fighting actually began. Because again, I think as much shit as Jefferson gets, he introduced a bill to end slavery, and they
hmm.
stopped the import of slaves into the country, which included indentured servants.
Right.
Almost 2 decades before the Civil War, to choke it
Right.
off.
Right.
The
Yeah, but
so
this went
Yeah.
on in like the 1600s. I'm talking about, like,
Yeah, but
where
again, that not
the
America,
higher.
not not
Hmm.
and again, Spain, Portugal, and the UK, or
Right.
the English at the time, the French as well. More towards South America. Again, whatever 6% of the people brought from Africa to the quote New World went to what
Hmm.
is effectively the North American territory. The rest went to South America, and Central America. And so, again, it was an entire movement that started to peter out here.
Yes.
The point being, though, is that by taking that on, there was a bridge built in Northern abolitionist movement and the enslaved classes in the South that would eventually create what would be effectively the bond. It started out as the Republican Party because again they
Hmm.
switched names in
Yep.
the
Yep.
early '60s. The
That's
Democrats
it.
became
Yep.
effectively the party of the North, and where they had been the party of the South and had been pro-slavery,
Right.
and the Republicans had been, in building that republic, they
Hmm.
needed the people, like the volume of people, free people to vote to create a functioning republic. And that's where that 3/5 of a person thing comes from,
Uh-huh.
because the South wanted to count every slave as a person for purpose of counting, but not for the purpose of
Yes.
voting. And the North said, no, we want to count. If you're going to count them as a person, you have to count them. They have to be allowed to vote. And if they're not going to be allowed to vote, you can't count them as a whole person. We're not going to pretend they don't exist because resources and
Right.
army and all that kind of stuff. So we'll settle on 3/5 until we can have a war about this in a few years. And that's where
Exactly.
that
And they
came
knew it
from.
was coming.
Right, right.
Exactly. But I
So
mean, there
Trump,
was like back in the 16, whatever, 1600s, that's what Bacon's rebellion was about. It was when the enslaved Africans fought together with the indentured servants against the landed colonial authorities. And that's what really, you know, terrified them moving forward.
sure.
So,
Again, as a British satellite, which ultimately,
mhm,
in many ways, led to them looking at the Magna Carta and going, you know what, maybe we should try and live up to some of this.
yeah,
Is that
yeah,
theory?
yeah.
Meanwhile, and historically, like I'm always averse to looking through the past with modern eyes,
Yeah,
because we wouldn't
I hear
need
you.
tomorrow if we weren't assholes yesterday. The whole purpose
Right.
of like progress is the fact that we weren't where we needed to be and we're going where we do. And
Yep.
so the idea that we can even like look back with disdain on how shit ran back then
Yes.
is it kind of, it also, I think, pushes away the progress that has been made. And I feel like we should be championing the steps
Yeah.
forward more than we
Yeah.
decry how shit was for millennia before that.
Exactly.
Because
But
again,
I'm just
yeah,
yeah. Go ahead. I'm just pointing out that this is the
the,
old. This
the,
is
the
just
divide
an
and
old
conquer thing.
playbook.
Yep.
Like get a clue, MAGA. If
Well, it's,
you're that in tuned, don't you get sick of being played? That's what it looks like
I
to
don't think
me.
so. Let me
I
show you
guess
something real
not.
quick. Let me show you something. This is Trump posted this on his Truth Social. Now I'm not going to play it. It's got Fear the
Mm.
Reaper, the music
Oh
to
Jesus Christ!
the Fear the Reaper playing.
This
Um,
guy. Oh my God! Oh my! Where do we live? Is this
yeah,
real?
yeah, yeah.
He posted
He
this.
posted this, right?
He's the
Uh,
Reaper.
Now their time has come. Yeah, the Reaper, and he's got the Democrats on the halls here. The power's gone.
Oh God!
Uh,
You scum! You
yeah,
scumbag!
with
Oh no!
Russ
Oh, these
Vaught is
people.
the
I mean,
Reaper. He
oh
wields the
God!
pen, the funds, and the brain. Here comes the Reaper. Dems, you babies. Here comes the Reaper. Like, I don't know, whatever they
Oh,
like.
babies! Oh,
Yeah,
we're babies
here comes
because
the
we
Reaper.
want a functioning society that works for more than just billionaires. Okay, that's
Yeah,
babyish. I know.
like this is like a minute long like AI slop video, and then he plays what Jeffries was
Wow.
saying. Like I was saying, like everything that like on MSNBC, they're like, why won't they say this? And they just
Yeah,
putting blah 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 blah
it's
over
so
top of it,
true.
right? And then I don't
Yeah,
know,
because
they
they
just
don't. I don't know what it is. It's to me. Well, I guess it is the corporate media. They're not pro. They're not liberal. It's not the liberal media. We
right.
have one half of the media that's really just pouring poison into the empty heads of the victims slash viewers watching Fox News, for example.
Hmm.
Fox News makes its viewers less informed than those who watch no news at all. This is a study that came out over
Sure,
10 years ago
right.
from that socialist rag Business Insider.
Yes.
And they also had to pay. Well, they were hit with the largest fine against the
Hmm.
media company in American history for lying to its viewers. And I guess they like being lied to, because why would you tune into something like that deliberately and be like, wow, why do you?
Sure.
And the other thing, like Benny Johnson and all these other influencers, they're being paid. They were caught taking
Russian
money
money.
from the
Right.
Kremlin.
Yeah.
And what, like, wouldn't you take that as an opportunity to look in the mirror and say, why are America's enemies paying these right wing influencers to spread lies, basically, about
Hmm.
this, about Trump, to prop up Trump? I mean, you want to know somebody, look at their friends. When you're hanging out, palling around with dictators, we certainly had to hear never ending whining about how Barack Obama palled around with terrorists because
Right.
he sat on a board with Bill Ayers, and Bill Ayers had a fundraiser for him. That was palling around with terrorists. We don't hear this, on the right wing. I mean, on the corporate media, they don't say that about, well, Trader Trump is palling around with dictators, palling around with America hating dictators. That's the truth.
Yes.
You can't normalize this, but they are. And I don't know what it is. I guess it's because they're afraid. They are also run by billionaires, and it's never enough. They need more money, 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 and it's just like how
Hmm.
this is not gonna end well, because really. And I was listening to your
Hmm.
your earlier interview, and it's just nothing matters to these people except money, more and more and more and more, and it's never enough. And we have to understand. I think we really need to answer the question as Democrats: what is the meaning of an economy? What is the meaning of life? Is it to make a few people very rich
Hmm.
and go die in the field without complaining or pestering our betters for any kind of profit, sharing in the profits our labor makes possible? That's what they want. If they could turn us into friggin' soil and green after they squeeze every ounce of whatever out of us, they would.
Curtis
So,
Yarvin, who is one of who's somebody that JD Vance has quoted many times, says that the poor
right.
should be turned into biodiesel. The
Scum.
the fact
Wow.
that, yeah, I mean, not a mishearing of a quote, like
Yes.
directly. And this is a guy that JD Vance has touted as someone that he is
Yes.
impressed by, who they, what he says and his philosophy. Also, I'd like to
Right.
point out that Benny Johnson, one of the more hilarious things was that Benny
Uh-huh.
Johnson,
I did a thing about that.
yeah,
He
so
learned
he,
about targeted ads, right?
yeah, the hard way is that apparently the he doesn't know that the ads change based on the user. And so he looked
Yes.
on Military Times, and this, like, oh my God, they're advertising the world's
Uh-huh.
largest gay cruise
He
ever.
wants to go on a gay cruise. That's why. I mean, just go on a gay
Just go
cruise.
on a gay cruise.
Right.
Right.
You want that.
Stop.
You live in this limited blip of time,
Right.
and we're not going to be here forever. So go have fun. Go on the gay cruise. Nobody cares. We
Right.
want you to be happy.
Well,
We
somebody
want you to be
cares.
yourselves.
His
Right.
wife might. And also
True.
the,
True. That's true.
all of
He's being
MAGA, they seem to be anti power bottom. Is really the thing. Like, you can be like Andrew
Yes,
Tate gay, which is
that's
this
true.
idea is like,
Right.
I'm not gay because I penetrate,
That's
right?
right.
That I mean, they're kind of
That's it.
okay with that, or reform gay, or whatever, or Roy Cohn gay, which again, Donald Trump's
Yes.
two best friends, dead pedophiles. Um,
Right. Right. That's so true.
yeah,
Right. Yeah, I
really
didn't even
odd.
think about that.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Roy Cohn and
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Roy Cohn.
Jeffrey Epstein replaced Fred when Fred died.
Incredible.
Basically, he replaced his brother, and Roy Cohn was a substitute father for him. And Roy Cohn famously
Jeez.
says, Roy Cohn is not, when they said, what would you say when people say that, Roy Cohn was a gay man who died of AIDS? And he said, Roy Cohn is not a gay man. Roy Cohn is a straight man who fucks boys.
Oh, wow. And that's like right out of history too,
Ugh.
in the Roman Empire, when you
Sure.
could be it was all a power dynamic. You could have a male lover or whatnot, but as long as you
In
weren't being
Afghanistan right
penetrated.
now,
Yeah.
in the Arab world right
Uh-huh.
now, when you subjugate women and you make it so that the rules on their sexuality are so
Right.
limited that they can't just be themselves or choose their own partner or whatever, you set every society that
Yep.
does that
That's
scoops
right.
up young boys. And
Right.
and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's that the Peninsula Hotel, I think, in Los Angeles, that like the Saudi princes all rent out multiple floors,
Mm.
but they rent 3 floors and stay in the middle one so that nobody can listen in from the top and bottom, and then they bus in these like young
Ah.
Filipino men, like, for cleaning services. It's so
Oh,
fucked up.
sure.
Eh,
Wow,
eh,
this
eh,
is fucked up, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the whole
So
fucking world. I'm so sick of these people because 'cause they're making us all sick.
well,
It's
I would
like,
argue,
God.
for the record, they are the awful people are the minority, and one of the reasons
Yes.
why they gain power is because we acquiesce, we cede that
Yep.
ground to them because of, and this is where I will put the responsibility on us. We shy away from dealing with the difficult issues in certain areas that we see.
Mm.
If we don't talk about the need for a border and proper security and all that kind of stuff, if we're
Yes.
just afraid to do it because we're afraid to sound racist for some reason, which is odd,
Uh-huh.
because no other country has to deal with that. Every other country has a border. You can say that and be fine.
Yeah.
That if, because of the abject racism of the right in talking about this, they set the tone for how the border will be
Yes.
discussed. And we give that ground and going, no, fuck you. That we can have a border just because it's with Mexico. We can have one with Canada that's secure as well. That's just natural, whatever. We're not going to lay it off on migrant workers and make it act like we don't get cheap fruit because we're taking advantage of these people.
Right.
Stop bullshitting everyone. That we, by not having that conversation, by and large, over the last 10
Right.
years, have ceded that ground to them. And so the only person
Mhm.
who comes in and goes, I've got an answer for this problem that scares the shit out of you. And then an immigrant kills somebody, they use that to flood the airwaves with this is what they're all like. And then they start vilifying people. And that's our fault because we
Right.
weren't willing to have the tough conversation about a normalized border situation until it was effectively too late. If Biden had introduced the bill
You're
that he
right.
worked out in the first year of his presidency versus the last year of his presidency, we would have lost more Democratic votes in the midterms than we already had.
Hmm.
Because Democrats would have, by and large, thought this was racist because the tone was set by Trump.
Right.
You can't even go there and talk about just the normal aspect of it because Trump has
Mhm.
set that we've allowed the awful amongst us. We behave sexually in this country in our interpersonal relationships based on a standard set by rapists, like date
Mm.
rapists and sexual and pedophiles and like. We have stranger danger, which is again a minor group of human beings amongst us,
Yes.
sets the tone for the fact that kids can't walk to school anymore because of our fear of that part. And that doesn't just start there. It goes to everywhere.
Right.
And so this, there are areas where if we're not willing to have the long-term conversation about people like that need to go to jail and stay there, and that,
Yep. Yep.
that our idea that we need to, that nonviolent criminals, the idea that would include anybody involved in any kind of
Yes.
sexual assault, much less pedophilia or an attack on a child, can get any kind of early release because prisons are overcrowded and we don't like the fact that America has more prisoners than any other country. And so we think
Mhm.
that falls under that conversation. We just got to start letting people out willy-nilly because we're righting wrongs or some horseshit instead of
Mm.
reviewing why people get put in jail in the first place and making
Right.
sure and vetting these people. And you get in a situation where Donald Trump just willy-nilly pardoned 1,600 Jan 6ers
Yes.
who attacked and beat police officers, who threatened their own families. Some of them were actually pedophiles and their own families
Yeah.
turned them
And
in.
got arrested again. Some of them got
Yes.
arrested again because of being pedophiles. I mean,
Right.
these are not they're not well people. That's one
No.
umbrella they fall under. They're sick. They're very sick.
Which,
So they're all
like
sick.
pedophiles, you mean?
Yeah,
I
I mean the January 6 people.
Yes, right,
You
yes.
lump them in together, but they have a cornucopia of manias that they're all effed up
Sure.
on some level. I mean, for example, oh yeah, and here's the thing though, as far as they're
Well,
just
you know me,
not.
I hate the whole phobia talk. I don't believe in
Yeah, yeah,
transphobia or
that's true.
homophobia or anything because they're not afraid. They don't have a pathological illness. that makes them
Yes. No, you're
scared.
right. You're
They're
right.
assholes. They're bigots.
That's it.
And their
Yeah, that
bigotry
I mean,
gets them points in their social circle.
mhm.
That's why they do it. If it didn't, they wouldn't give a fuck. They believe in
That's right.
freedom and letting people do whatever they
Yeah,
want as
right.
long as it
Sure.
doesn't harm
Sure.
anybody else in theory. But socially it gives them points to shit on trans people, shit on
Right.
gay people, shit on lesbians, whatever it is. So they get points for that. They're
That's
not
right.
afraid. They don't have a mental illness. I don't
No,
give a shit. There are
no.
plenty of people who
It's
didn't get
irrational.
attention from their parents and ended up writing songs and not beating people. So like
Right.
again,
No, I
I
know.
like even that isn't a get out of jail free card for me.
Right. No, it's completely irrational, of course. And it also shows that they are easily led by the nose because
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago they weren't talking about trans people. That now they're I mean there's over 700 bills that these Republicans have
Mm-hmm.
attempted to pass all over the country as if these are, trans people aren't one less than 1% of the population. It's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely disgusting. The how they focus on and other, you heard Trump the other day. Everything is, yeah, when they're talking about the shutdown, he goes into, well, they want women and men and
He
women's
wants
sports, and they want,
transgender for everyone, which, by
yeah,
the
it's for
way,
everyone.
is trans. What he and this is where I took. I'm sorry it took me this long to figure it out. In the same way that Trump thinks that people seeking asylum come from asylums, like that brain
Yeah.
fart that he has, he thinks
Uh-huh.
transhumanism is
Right.
transgender for everyone, which is the
He's such
singularity
a
technological
dumbass.
thing, right?
Yeah.
But Peter Thiel is one of the
Uh-huh.
people who believes that sex is fluid, that you should be able to make babies in test tubes and grow them in artificial wombs, and that's
Huh.
where we're
Right.
going. And so it doesn't matter if somebody's male or female. And so that's just his like. He's also like, I don't know if the Antichrist is a bad guy, and I wouldn't mind being him. That kind of conversation, which would normally flip
Yeah.
right wingers out for some reason, evangelicals especially, but they all seem to fold underneath it because I don't know, power, I guess. Because if they
Right.
don't,
And
they'll lose his PowerPoint.
that's true. But and they because here's the other thing is that I think that the Democrats have to message, and I guess we
Mm-hmm.
help do that, is that, these people, they're not patriots. They hate the country as the founders created. They hate the liberal age of enlightenment. That's how this country was created, born and inspired by the liberal age of enlightenment. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and the founders were all, obviously they didn't live up to the standards. They wrote all men are created equal, and they meant all white men. I mean, that was a man in their point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Women were property. Anyone with darker pigment, didn't matter either. So, but the fact is, they gave us a progressive blueprint from which to build upon. And Republicans just don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we saw on January 6th, they would rather throw the whole thing out the window than evolve, let's say, because it takes a level of maturity to function in a free democratic society, especially a multiracial democracy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to get along with people. You have to be able to,
Right. That's what makes
compromise.
America. That is what makes
Yeah,
America a special place. It's
exactly.
and even when the EU does it by becoming the European Union to kind of be along with the United States idea,
Hmm.
or the
True.
UK, the
Yeah,
United Kingdom, when in reality these are largely racially homogenous countries with distinct,
that's right.
gene structures. And if they want to be, they should be allowed to be that. Like French people are a real thing. They show up
Hmm.
on your 23andMe. British,
Right, right.
Irish, Scottish,
Yep,
Swedish. That shows up on your 23andMe. American doesn't.
that's right.
And
Because
there's
we're
a
from
dis-
everywhere.
Right.
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
distinction is important for us to make and remind everyone of every time somebody tries to turn this into like a white nationalist ethno state, or the Black Hebrew Israelites try to tell everybody that they were here before they were the real Jews and they were here before the Native Americans, and that Native
Right.
Americans are actually East Indian people, and enslaved them or some nonsense. Like
Mm-hmm.
crazy is fucking crazy. And the reality is that if anything, our focus should be on the because we talked about for a while the sort of diversity is our strength idea, and I would argue that variety of experience is valuable when you're trying to solve a problem, and that's where
Yes.
that would be true. But unity is actually our strength, because a house
Yes.
divided against itself will fall. And that's one of the things that we've written off, is that we created internalized fiefdoms in this, to the point where you've got progressive superintendents of schools creating segregated classrooms on the premise that black kids learn better around other black
Oh.
kids, or some
Oh, wow.
nonsense,
Hmm.
and under the guise of being progressive about things, which is
Mm.
like
Oh, wow.
would be right wing race realism from the 50s. Um,
Yeah.
it's absurd. It's ridiculous.
Right.
And
Right.
it goes against the entire idea of that we're all working together to try and build something together. So, and dividing
Yes.
everybody up into little camps is antithetical to that very idea. So everybody learns
Absolutely.
apart, everybody bonds apart, everybody separates, and then once they leave school, they go their separate ways because that's what they were taught in school. It's
Yeah.
fucking terrible. No.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, that's the truth. I mean, the fact is, well, with schools in general, we have racist policies in place that make, good schools and bad schools, and that was meant to ghettoize, paying for, what am
mhm.
I trying to say? Paying for schools through property taxes was a racist law that it made sure that black communities would stay in their place, so they would have a bad school and not
Oh,
have
not just
funding and
black people.
whatnot.
Not just
Yeah,
black
yeah.
people, to drown out the poor white trash. Because
Right, exactly.
understand again, when you're talking about impact, the impact of quote unquote black school districts at that point was relatively minor. You wouldn't do an
Mhm.
entire national policy across the board, even just based on that small group of citizens. Although I'm sure that was the factor why the southern states were in on it and were for it. But there was an
Yep.
element of, if the working class in this particular area is not going to give a shit about bettering themselves or whatever, this is the premise, then why are we paying for their schools to teach them to be anything other than factory workers? It's a waste of
Yep.
time.
That's
It
it.
was effectively a caste system that built it,
Mhm.
and then it became a self-fulfilling prophecy over time, because these people,
Right.
you couldn't break out of it because your school didn't have access. There is a huge difference going, and we talked, that's one of the reasons why I dedicate a chunk of the show to AI, every week, is because there's this idea that it is the great democratizer right now, that the technology that's available and how cheap it is and the depth of it is
Yeah.
extraordinary. And the idea that every student in the United States, or even eventually, I suppose, the world, will have its own tutor, that only the rich could afford. And that
Yes.
eventually the average person could afford what's effectively a robot butler. Um,
Mm.
will it make a portion of the populace lazier? That seems to be where everybody goes, which I would argue is part of the disdain you're talking about this. Like, there's a class disdain that I see across the
Yeah.
board for people that, like, if we allow people to do this, they'll all just become lazy fucks.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, they have no respect. That's the Republican. I really believe they have no respect for the working class of this country. They hate,
Sure.
that's why they're like, "Oh, we have to teach them the dignity of work," as if we don't already know. I mean, you first,
Sure.
Republicans, really. So, yeah.
What's their primary experience? Is you think it's easy teaching Eric that he has to actually do something? Like,
Yeah,
it
who
was a
never
pain
had
in the
to.
ass.
Yeah,
And if you
right,
if
he
you
never
if
had
you're
to go
like,
on an interview or set up a
yeah,
resume or,
if my rich upper class genetically superior fast racehorses make fast racehorses kid is this lazy fuck, imagine what poor people
Oh
are like
god.
because they're
Oh,
genetically
yeah.
weaker. That's where it comes
That's
from. I
so
mean,
true.
again,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
took
you're right.
one fucking
Yeah.
conversation between Trump and Elon Musk, and he started saying fast racehorses produce fast racehorses, that
Oh,
eugenics
Jesus
fucking
Christ,
bullshit
real.
on the campaign trail. I mean, at this
And they
point,
believe that, though. The maggots believe that. They do. They believe that
but
they're
they also assume,
superior and mm,
but a dumb horse will assume it can win the race no matter what.
yes.
I guess the idea is that they are, that they're talking themselves out of it. That it is an act of ego, and I think we do live in a genuinely uh, narcissistic age,
Yep.
fueled largely by
Selfish. It's
social
selfish.
media and that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's,
And
I
I'm
mean,
sick of it, really. It's like selfishness is the only American value now. Selfishness and greed, which is really the same thing. That's the
well,
only
okay.
consideration.
Amongst that class, I would not say that
Hmm.
of Democrats by and large. As a
No,
matter of
you're
fact, I
right.
would say
You're
the
right.
opposite.
You're
And I
right.
would say the volume of people in the country feel that way, but a lot of them feel like disempowered by the
Yeah.
blatant power grab that's going on in front of them. And the system that was set up is based on best practices. A lot of what Trump
Hmm.
is violating is not the law, but norms. And when you get down to it, technically speaking,
Yeah.
those norms were ethical lines, not legal lines. And they would have to become
Yes.
legal lines in the
That's right.
future.
Yep.
But
Yep.
nobody thought to cross them because we were thinking in terms of generalized decency. And I think when you've got a bunch of people who are skating even after Bush Cheney or Reagan and Iran Contra, still having the kind of idea that
Yep.
we can operate on best practices, and not set a distinct law that protects against these things happening from the what the Supreme Court is going to do, and it's not because it wouldn't matter if it was all liberals to some degree. The Supreme Court is
Yeah.
going to default to what's the law say, and the law says he's got the ability, within the administration to administer the funding of the House within certain limits, meaning any discretionary
Mm.
funds that aren't
Mm.
directly allotted to a particular program. He can throw them all out if he assumes that there's an
Ugh.
emergency. We can't create any debt. Well,
Yeah. This is like it's. I mean, is everything's an emergency now? That's
right.
why he's
That's how
getting
he's
away
doing
with
it.
everything.
That's right.
Hmm.
Declare an emergency. So, and again,
Yeah.
there's a legal aspect to, and this is what the tariff thing is going to, I think, settle, is that you cannot declare everything an emergency and then just take over the law, because
Right.
the next step is martial law on the streets. And that's what Trump
Oh
is
yeah.
hoping for. They want,
Yes.
they have been grinding about this since probably the mid 70s, that we need to, and this is where in our unpeeling of a particular problem, which I would say the scooping up of nonviolent drug offenders, which was a real problem, we allowed blatant blind talk about criminality in the country to sweep over everything. The assumption was is that if those people are innocent, everybody must be. And we got
Mm.
to defund the police, and we got to defund prisons, and there was a big push against, for-profit prisons just have to guarantee a certain number of customers. So
Yeah.
as if the
Hmm.
for-profit, like they're out there paying people to commit crime so they can get it was silly. It's just it's
Yeah.
absurd. Like, and most of the big supermaxes, by the way, are run by for-profit prisons, but have better health outcomes for the prisoners. That's why we have so many people in prison, is because they live longer now than
Yeah.
than the
Yeah.
state-run ones, which is what that Joe Arpaio's place was, where he could, because he was
Right.
running it on state tax dollars, and everybody hates seeing their tax dollars at work directly. They're like, why are my tax dollars going directly to this motherfucker, right? And so to these people, so he could treat them like shit because it made the taxpayers in that area feel better.
Oh God, I know. It's like that, and that's what I mean, though, that treating people like shit is somehow viewed by maggots as being strong when it is the weakest, babyish. It's the easiest thing to do is to treat people like shit and not live up to your own standards and laws. That's what they're
Hmm.
doing. And I think that we have to, message that these are the weakest baby, whiny little crying
Uh,
titty babies on earth, these
yeah.
Republicans. And that's why they're destroying it.
Well,
America, when they
especially when it
say
comes
they
to
hate,
media, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, when they talk about big government, they want to drown government. They hate
Hmm.
government. And, of course, yeah, big government. They want to make it as small as they are. That's
Right.
it. Drew, look at that Pete Hegseth speech. That
Oh my God.
absolute embarrassment
His
to
keg talk.
humanity. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, I heard somewhere that they were calling him, calling the two of them, Trump and Hegseth, fat man and little boy,
Hmm.
because they bombed, right? They
Right.
really,
Yes.
I thought that was pretty good. But then that's what they are, fat man and little boy,
Right.
really. But who is this unfit asshole, this Fox News DUI hire,
Yeah.
to lecture all of these career officers on standards and
Right.
honor and all this. These people have no honor.
When he stole
How
from
can
veterans,
right? He
when he
crashed. Exactly, exactly. That's what he did. His two prior jobs were, he has no qualifications for this job, but they
Right.
were bankrupting two very small veterans organizations, and he
Right.
used it like his own personal slush fund. That's when he went out and to these hotels where he raped women
Hmm.
allegedly,
Hmm.
and of course made a complete ass of himself.
Right.
These are sick
Well, it's why
people.
his wife
Like,
has to pray with him every morning. That this whole
yeah.
bullshit story about how like we sit and we help, every morning. I'm like that. She makes you do
Oh
that,
God.
asshole. That is what trad wife, like Christian
Yes,
women do when they have a cheating husband. Is they
that's
make them
right.
say a Jesus pledge before the whole family before they leave the house
Mhm.
because that's the extent
I
of the
have
power that they
sinned.
have. Yeah, I have sinned
Exactly,
against you.
exactly.
So Trump on top of that, like his obviously, I've been saying for a while, his brain is tapioca now. And I was saying that there is going
Yes.
to be a period where he's going to have 4 functional hours a day. Because they were talking about how, like, Biden or whoever was at 8 or 6 hours, and then anything outside that, he's too tired to do stuff. Well, that's true of almost every human being, especially somebody with a job that important and full that shit. Like, I got to tell you, like, I have no problem with presidential vacations. I have no problem with them,
Yeah.
taking a day off over the weekend because they never really have a day off because there's always something going on.
Yeah.
But there's a
They're
reason why
human.
you want
Exactly.
you want the best decision making available. You don't want them up in the middle of the night fucking texting shit. You want them getting a good night's
Yeah.
sleep so the decisions they make are not based on sleep deprivation and they're answering questions like they've been hit with a phone book while under a lamp. So but Trump seems to think and again, I think half of the nighttime tweets they put out, the truth and cold things they do, I think half of them are programmed bullshit. I think they do it to make it seem like he's up all night because he sleeps in every day. And so what they do is they just throw
Yes.
the. I think
Yes.
they high pack them based on whatever he says during the awake hours. Scavino and all those guys put this shit together, and then they post this stuff in the middle of the night, so it seems like he got up and just was wide awake at all
Yeah.
hours to make him sound powerful. When in reality, it's just a recipe for your brain turning to mush. So he puts out
Right.
this
Well, he also, old people. I'm sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
They don't have they don't require as much sleep either. But that's also my father had Alzheimer's, and
Mm-hmm.
it's part of the dementia thing. Not just getting old, but it's really they have trouble sleeping
Yeah.
worse than just regular aging, and
Yes.
yeah, and it contributes
And they
to
nod off
the confusion.
because of it, so they don't
Hmm.
sleep through the night. And he's not on. Insofar as I know, we had like Biden had a CPAP machine at a period, and they would show it on him or
Right.
whatever. And that's not surprising for a man his age. There's so many Americans, and like when they made fun of him, I'm like, you realize how many people you're making fun of in this
Oh,
country
I
right now?
know.
Like half the
They're just
ads on
awful.
TV, yeah,
Yeah.
just gross.
Uh-huh.
Like the
Yeah.
disdain they have for this kind of weakness, not realizing that Trump has all these problems and more, and they're all going to come crashing down at once. So he releases this statement about
Oh,
Hamas. Did
please.
you see the Hamas statement that he put out?
They have until Sunday night,
Yes. So this is
or
the current state of his gelatinous brain. In terms of this, Hamas has been a ruthless and violent threat for many years in the Middle East! Exclamation point, as opposed to where else. They have killed and
Middle
made lives
East.
unbearably miserable, culminating with the October 7th massacre in Israel. Babies, women, children, old people, and young men and women,
Oh,
boys
shut
and
the
girls
fuck
getting
up.
ready to celebrate their future lives together. I don't I guess
I
a
guess,
wedding.
was it a wedding?
There was a wedding
Yeah.
party that was some people killed at that one. I think is what he means, but it's like the whole festival was about it. Whatever. Anyways, he doesn't care. He's just throwing it all together as retribution for the
Yeah.
October 7th attack on civilization. More than 25,000 Hamas soldiers have already been killed. Most of the rest are surrounded and militarily trapped, which is not a thing. I don't know what the fuck that is.
Whatever,
Just
like,
just
right?
waiting, just waiting for me to give the word go.
Me.
Me to give
Oh,
the word go.
fuck you,
For their
me.
lives, for their lives to be quickly extinguished. As for the rest, we know where and who you are, and you will be hunted down and killed. I am asking that all innocent Palestinians immediately leave this area of potentially great future death. Which is just,
Oh,
what the
Lord.
fuck?
Make it stop.
This
Oh, my
area of
God.
potentially great future death.
Potentially
For
great. Well,
safer
there
parts.
he lets the game out,
He means
He
he
loves
means
death.
okay. He means the place in Gaza City where Hamas is holed up in this one particular area. That's what he's talking about. For safer parts of Gaza, which is like, where's that, dummy? Everyone will be well cared for by those that are waiting to help. Fortunately for Hamas, however, they will be given one last chance. Great, powerful, and very rich nations of the Middle East. He knows the very rich part being a big part because he's so enamored with their fucking gold leafed everything. And the surrounding areas beyond, together with the United States of America, have agreed with Israel signing on to peace after 3,000 years in the Middle East.
Oh, shut your hole.
Oh, my God. This deal also spares the lives of all remaining Hamas fighters. No, it does not. Like, it doesn't. It doesn't. Like, the idea is that, turn it over and we're just going to not continue the raids and stuff. But the Hamas fighters that were actually engaged in this, all remaining, I don't know what the fuck that means. You're going to have to stop being a Hamas fighter. If you're still a Hamas fighter, you're going to die. Like, it's silly. Go back to being a Palestinian, I suppose, is your option, right? Incredible. It's just so stupid. Like, what? I don't.
But the thing is, the details. How much longer are we going to take it? I'm sorry, Hal.
Yes, details. It's okay. The details of the document are known to the world and is a great one for all. What the fuck? We will have peace, in all caps, in the Middle East one way or another. The violence and bloodshed will stop. Release the hostages, all of them, including the bodies of those that are dead now. An agreement, in all caps. An agreement must be reached by Hamas by Sunday evening, 6 p.m. Washington, D.C. time. It's just funny, like so they know what city he's in, I guess. Yeah. Every country has signed on this. No, they haven't. They all got pissed because Netanyahu changed the terms of it before that stupid meeting that they had together. Let me scroll this up so you can bring it up here. If this last chance agreement is not reached, all hell, like no one has ever seen before, you got to throw that in, I guess, will break out against Hamas. There will be peace in the Middle East one way or the other.
Oh, okay. So,
thank you for your attention to this matter.
Oh, fuck off!
Like it's a
this is a new thing, like the thank you for this attention. This is a relatively new sign off that he's
been doing it for a few
maladministration.
He did it during the campaign on a couple of things or whatever. I don't know if AI did it for him once and he liked it, or it just sounds like he's putting something in a complaint box. Like they have it in an apartment building. It sounds like something that, or a real estate, like your landlord puts a notice, about, like they're paving the road outside. So move your cars by Wednesday. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yeah, that's what it is. This is all fucking muscle memory in his dough-headed fucking experience of the world. Like he is just replaying little cyclical things in his head.
Yeah, it's like when you're a kid. It reminds me of how they taught you to write a business letter.
Yes.
Where you say, thank you, dear sir or madam, or to whom it may concern. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yeah.
Right.
He's such a waste of human DNA. And reading that, and I have to, sometimes, I just have to pinch myself or slap myself across the face and be like, what world is this? What timeline is this? We're all agreeing to this on some level. We're all agreeing to take orders from this unfit, serial bankrupt, con man, disco prowling baboon who palled around with a pedophile for 20 years. Right. So when do we all come to our senses? And I guess it's a matter of voting him out. And I don't think he's going to leave. I don't think he's going to leave.
Why? Okay, I guess the big question is, because I got it, again, I'm trying to find, an area of our responsibility, our locus of control, where we can do something about this on our own. And how we talk about stuff, how we message things, how we get people motivated again, bring, the independence. There was, his move in Black and Hispanic and Asian voters, it was a real thing in real polling. And, by and large, one of the factors of it is a sector of those groups that is still got a misogynistic patriarchal attitude towards a female leader that's not going to change
Mm.
anytime soon. And
Yeah.
so we had that going against it. It had nothing to do with policy. It's that it's better to have a man in
Sure.
charge, especially when it's dangerous. So all the Republicans have to do is talk about how dangerous the world is. Fucking dangerous. It's dangerous. It's okay. Maybe you want a chick running things in a few years, but it's fucking dangerous right now, and you need a male. Right?
Need a man.
That was it. I mean,
Exactly.
that's what the immigrant argument was all about. Was we're being invaded. There's an enemy within. You can't have women running stuff. They'll
Yes.
coddle these murderers. They'll push back. I mean, I'm telling you, it's what happened.
Yeah, no, it's true. You're right, and it comes from the women too. In the maggots, you'll hear them, because in order to be a female maggot, you have to be even more misogynist than the average Republican male.
It's
true.
very strange, and it's odd. I don't know how Erica Kirk is going to take over TPUSA, considering the philosophy that underpins it.
Yes.
That women shouldn't be in charge of anything important. That's why, even in the case of CPAC, Matt Schlapp, who's queer as a football bat and will grope any 18-year-old intern within twice arm's length, because he has a wife. He can play trad husband, and his wife has no fucking say. She can attend the parties.
That's right.
She can glad hand and show off, but he's going to be running things because a closeted gay man is still tougher than a woman running things, even if she's completely honest and shares your values. It's fucked up.
Right.
Like they couldn't replace him with a woman, not just his wife, any woman, because of that's so entrenched. And so that's a standard belief system. Oh, thank you. Excuse me one second. I was brought a tea by my lovely.
Oh, that's lovely.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's nice. I like seeing that.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Gives me hope for the world.
Mm-hmm.
See?
It's nice, too.
People are good.
It's refreshing. Ice green tea, plain, no sweetener, no nothing in it. It's just. But what the point I'm trying to make is that do Democrats run a woman with like this next time around?
Yeah.
Or do we deal with the reality that a huge chunk of the populace isn't ready for it yet, and we focus and keep it together and build a structure over time where it is patently obvious that women can be in positions of power and make decent decisions in these situations, in the way that we were on track to do with Hillary Clinton being Secretary of State, right?
Yeah.
And then Kamala Harris being vice president. We were making those steps, and it was working. It was moving in that direction. But by hook or by crook, there was this whole thing where we thought the public was farther along, and especially the minority public, which is a huge chunk of the Democratic voter base, was further along on these issues than they are. This is also true of the quote-unquote trans issue. That they are like to you and I, it's self-evident, but to a big chunk of these folks, it ain't. And so, not that we have to backtrack on our ethical beliefs about this, but we've got some work to do. We've got some convincing to do, and we've got some steps to take, some 2 steps forward and 1 step back work to do, so that we're not going, look, take it or leave it, you fucking bigot. And then everybody runs for the hills and goes, well, if you're just going to call me that, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, which a bunch of them did.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, there are ways to message it, and I do believe that what Democrats see, like, for example, when Hillary called the
basket of deplorables,
they're still, the basket of deplorables. I just heard this week another one of them whining
they still drag on that shit.
That.
Right.
Oh God, it's like, shut the fuck up.
Well, and again,
but Hillary's mistake was apologizing for it. She didn't say anything wrong.
No.
And she qualified it too. She didn't call them all maggots. They're liars. No. I mean, she didn't call all of them deplorables. She said the homophobes, the Islamophobes.
Right. There are people you can't reach that you'll never convince them that you're trying to do the right thing. They're in the basket of deplorables. They're bigots. They're anti-Semites. They're anti-gay. Whatever their thing is, and you're not going to reach them. Don't try, but don't let them stop you from reaching out to people who aren't 100% on board with you and try to find common ground. That's the whole
Exactly.
fucking conversation was. And by the way, there was a
He was
huge chunk.
100%
She
right.
was absolutely right.
Yeah.
And a bunch of maggots used that, and partly because the TYTs of the world viewed that as her
Right.
somehow betraying the purity of of the party or some shit like that, to
Unreal.
to try and
Yeah.
win over neocons so we could get back into another war. That was the story that they told about
Exactly.
Hillary Clinton, and we ended up. Anybody who thinks fucking Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris would have sent fucking boats to the fucking coast of Venezuela to do this, by the way, again,
Yes.
for the fucking
It's
fourth time in
this
2 weeks.
this is a crime against humanity.
That's
It is.
that's
It
a bunch
is.
of people getting murdered by Donald
For
Trump
no,
with
and
no evidence.
we'll just take their word that it's
They were drug
drug
dealers,
dealers.
and right,
It makes no difference, even if they were. We are not supposed to be a lawless country. We have
right.
due process. You don't execute people without allowing them there to defend themselves a day in court. You don't do that. And
No,
the fact that they're doing it, they're prepping us because they're going to do it to everyone. This is where we go. It doesn't stop at the
right.
so-called drug dealers off the coast of
Well, no, what it
Venezuela.
does.
It
The next
will.
one is it's the drug dealers on the streets of America. This is like
That's right.
this is
Yep.
like he wants snuff squads walking around. That's what this is about. And that's why
That's it.
he wants to push send troops to Portland so the Antifa kids will come out so they can just wait for one of them to throw a Molotov.
Yeah.
That's deadly force. Open fire and just clear the decks. Just kill them so
Yes.
everybody can go back to normal. This is I would argue in many ways the passive eugenics of the total drug legalization movement that is partly born in look, they're gonna die of an overdose eventually. Let them do it. If they're gonna do it, why are we all trying to save them? There's a big passive eugenics movement in that like fentanyl to a certain point wipes out these people after a while. It lowers
Yeah.
their numbers. It culls the herd. There's too many of these. It's like,
Yes.
and there is an element of this in Trump's attitude where he's talking about like every drug dealer has killed 500 people. That's not just a rando, stupid fucking statement. It's a justification for deadly force. The same way, and I was against it when people would say that, like, words are violence, and therefore punch a Nazi for just being a Nazi and standing on a street corner
Yeah.
is a way of ratcheting up violence. There were more Russian bots and right-wingers promoting that than there were any of the actual gripes, put forward by their own side. And they did it because they want people to go up and start hitting people so they can go, see, I told you, blah, blah, blah. That's the goal.
That's right.
They're baiting people into violence so that they can use it. That's when everybody's like, you sent people here and it made it worse. It reminds me, and Stephen Miller's going, yeah, duh, that's the point. Remember when Dick Cheney, like there were, there's all this talk coming out about how when you torture someone, they will tell you whatever you want to hear just to make it stop. And it was obviously, it was abundantly clear that Dick Cheney was like, oh, okay, tell them to say this then. Tell them, it'll stop when they say this.
Yep. Yeah.
It was effectively what happened.
That's what they needed.
They tortured him
Yes.
to go, tell us there's weapons of mass destruction in this area. Tell us that they're planning on an attack here so we can preemptively use the authorized, temporary use of military force on that area because it's an emergency. That we have intel. Now, we beat that intel out of somebody who has no fucking way of knowing whether it was true or not. That doesn't matter. You torture them, they will tell you what you want to hear. And the same thing is kind of true here. Like, if you send troops there, the black bloc will show up to push back because they think it's their fucking duty and they're the army of whatever, of the anarchists or whatever. And they'll show up because they're easy to bait out. And then just wait for one of them, like, you spit, we hit, that's when he's throwing out there. Well, if they throw something, that's a projectile, and the interesting thing is that his problem is, and this is a good thing, and this is where I really do have faith in a system beyond what Trump is trying to do with it, is that National Guard guys are not interested in opening fire with their weapons. They're not. The only ones who are firing are the guys with the pepper ball guns.
Yeah.
And
the ones who
and
are
they've got shields.
And
those guys, They don't want to be the Kent State
No.
guy. None of those guys want to be that person right now. And Trump is very frustrated that they're still treating it like that, that habeas corpus exists, and that you can't just,
Yes.
perfunctorily shoot an American citizen because they threw a can of soup at you.
Right. And it's just, the national, because I was in the National Guard, and
Mhm.
these are members of the community. You serve in
Yes.
your own community. So, the fact that he's doing that and activating people, but that's why some of these red state governors are sending their National Guard, or they're
Hmm.
threatening to do so, which is completely illegal. Of course,
Right.
nobody asked you to activate your National Guard. Louisiana. How dare these poorly run red states
Hmm.
really wage war on the country, not just blue state America. They're waging war on America, and I mean, I do hope we can last and survive
Hmm.
this. But you look to Poland; they were able to pull back from their authoritarian coup.
Hmm.
They had a similar authoritarian takeover, a lot of countries are experiencing, and they were able to do it because they still had an independent media that was speaking truth about the regime. So that's
Right.
why, I mean, we're not far gone. We're not over the edge yet, I believe, until they come and take you off the air, take me off the air. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And but they also Poland had an independent judiciary as well, and I think we have a lot of challenges there.
Right.
Of course, because of the Supreme Court, the corrupt and illegitimate Supreme Court, enabling the lawlessness. It's like giving Trump immunity. Everyone was shocked when the Supreme Court took that case, because this is a no-brainer. Of course,
Hmm.
the president doesn't have immunity.
Hmm.
We don't have kings, but they gave him the power
But
of a
this
king.
this also
You
did
know?
not. There's also an assumption, and this plays into the sort of magic Trump concept. And we're over time, and I appreciate you hanging around
Yes,
for a
I
couple
see
extra
that.
minutes.
No,
Yeah,
that would be good.
that's
We're
right.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one of the issues that I have with everybody thinking that Trump is fucking magic and somehow this just happens for him, and that it happened out of
Yeah.
the blue, and that he created the Supreme Court and they handed him this thing. This shit has been going on since Bill Barr was working on the supreme executive power of the
Yeah.
administration in the fucking 80s. It's one of the other reasons, besides the fact that he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, that they wanted to bring him back during the first Trump presidency. But like, if you look at the authorized use of military force and the stuff around the Iraq War and the enhanced interrogation and John Hughes memos and all that kind of stuff, that's what built the foundation of this. Of course, the president has immunity to carry out things that he thinks are in the national
Hmm.
interest. The problem is, of
Right.
course, is that what defines the national interest, and we found out, which is the villain in Clear and Present Danger, the Harrison Ford movie, right, was the president declaring that drug cartels are a clear and present danger to the United States, and
Mm.
therefore, if we want to bomb Mexico, we can bomb Mexico. That's the premise of that
Right.
thing. And
Right.
basically, they're saying,
Yep.
no, the president in that was right, and should have the right to do that if he declares. And by the way, that's what that president was trying to do. They just realized that they had no justification for it. They killed a bunch of the guy's family members in the process, and the press about that would brought down his presidency. Was the theory? It was that there were a little
Hmm.
kid that was
Hmm.
killed there because they were having a birthday party at the house where this drug cartel leader was, and they bombed the house.
Hmm.
The Trump administration and all these guys are going to bomb the camps around the drug factories, effectively, in Mexico
Yeah.
and in South
Yeah.
America, which are surrounded, by the way, with civilians who work there and their families.
Yeah.
It's like a sharecropping organization. These like shanties and dorms where they
Oh
work
boy.
there so that they can be controlled. Those people are going to get wiped out if we bomb inside Venezuela or inside Mexico. But that's where this is headed. And the other thing too is, like, he wants
Yes.
the ability to gun down people, shoot first, ask questions later, for these bad people that are on the streets of America who dare stand up against him, or drug dealers that he has this like 1980s kind of after school special attitude towards what they look like and what they do. And
Mm.
he wants to ratchet it up so he can say, I'm doing this in the national interest, so that after the presidency, when the
Oh,
inevitable
jeez.
trials come, other people will be
Yes.
on the hook for it.
Thank you.
The people who carried it
That's
out,
right.
that's what he thinks. He thinks he'll be in the clear, but the people who carried it out, the National Guard people who opened fire, who didn't have justification, the police officers that may have
Right.
been lured into thinking this was okay, citizenry standing up, little fucking militias that are suddenly like the Proud Boys who think they're on his side and they're carrying out some secret fucking Nasara Jisara mission on his behalf, to bring
God help
about
us.
the end times, right? That's what he's hoping to stoke. The problem that he has, and I think this is key, is that the vast majority of Americans aren't for it. They're
No.
largely, oddly, ignoring him. It's
Yes.
really
It's
odd.
true.
But they're
Well,
like,
we don't have a long history of authoritarianism. We have a history of believing, at least, that we are free and that we have a
right.
democracy and that, we have a say in it. That's our whole history,
Mm-hmm.
our entire history. Now, unlike in Germany, they had a very short history of being a republic. They had a monarchy before that. And so that's why Hitler could easily become a chancellor, then authoritarian, and take over and be a dictator, on top of all the other things that he did, including arresting over 5,000 people in one night and sending them to camps and killing, the night of the long knives. I'm waiting for something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if that happens, I
Well,
don't know. What do you
yeah.
do, really?
Yeah. Well, in the case of this idea that Vance will fall in behind and everybody's like he's going to be worse, I just don't buy that the substructure has the ability to marshal MAGA. I
Yeah.
think the movement falls apart like Jonestown.
Yep.
And
Totally.
because
Totally.
there just isn't anybody waiting in the wings. That's what Hegseth I think was trying to do. I think he recognizes that there's too much of a dweeb factor, and in Vance and the crowd around him, and that he
Yes.
thinks if there's going to be another Vance, if Vance is going to be president, but if there's going to be another Vance, they're going to fall in, and bring the Silicon Valley to heel. That idea.
Oh
They're going to
God.
need
Yeah.
a Reagan-esque kind of person standing there, and that's what Hegseth thinks he's going to
Yeah.
be. That's why he wanted a campaign video of himself standing in front of a patent flag, giving a fucking like macho speech.
Oh.
He was filming an ad for 2028,
Oh.
and everybody needs to push that on the Trump administration so they wake up to
Yeah.
what's going on, because they're not going to get rid of him for endangering the troops. They're not going to get rid of him for fucking graft against veterans. They will dump him, though, for trying to jockey to the front of the line and grab
That's
power.
right.
Hegseth was filming a fucking campaign ad for 2028.
Oh wow.
Period. And people need to like scream that to high
Yes.
heaven, because it will. Because there's some people in the administration that apparently know this, and that's why Trump wanted to show up and give a speech so he wouldn't be upstaged. But it doesn't fucking matter, because he looked like a used condom up there,
Please,
wrapped,
he looks
rolled in
horrible.
Cheeto dust, and that. But on top of that, Hegseth still got what he needed. He got to come out first. He did his little speech.
Yep.
He basically introed the president like the president was his guest. Trump blathered, didn't have anything prepared. Trump did it behind the podium, and Hegseth was walking around like he was speaking extemporaneously.
Oh God.
Like it was a fucking ad. And
Yeah.
people need to like hammer that shit, because if there's anything that will knock him out and push him to the margins and get them, talking, the whisper campaign in the White House about this motherfucker stole from veterans. He's a fucking drunk, and he'll grope your wife and all that kind of shit. Which, by the way, they don't give a shit if somebody sexually assaults women.
No.
They voted for one twice, but it will matter amongst the guys who are competing.
And Kavanaugh, and there's
Right.
all of them.
Exactly.
What's his name?
Uncle
Clarence. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
all of them. Yeah.
They have to, anytime, and I'm saying this, we got to turn red districts purple and purple districts blue. It's the only fucking
Yes.
job. And anytime there's a wedge issue where you can drive a crowbar into the cracks in the dam, you have to walk right up there, jam that fucker in there, and start wiggling it back and forth. And one of them, the biggest ones, is Hegseth is running 2028.
That's yeah, definitely. And that just goes to show you how delusional he is. Too.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he thinks he's a quality person, I suppose, and he should be president. He should have more
Absolutely.
power. He's not this drunken fuck up who tweeted publicly
Right.
war plans, right? Or
he's running
whatnot.
the biggest
it's
organization on the planet, in terms of the Pentagon right now, and he's apparently crawling out of his skin, is the quote I heard about him,
Oh,
like
really?
because he
Because
can't
he
sit
can't
down in
drink?
the meetings. No, well, maybe that, yeah, he might, it might be straight up
Oh.
DTS, right?
Well, he's a drunk, of course. You don't
Yeah,
just, I mean, I'm in recovery, so I understand these things. You
right.
don't just, if you're an active alcoholic, you can't just stop on
Hmm.
your own. I
Right,
highly doubt he's probably, he's an undercover addict. I'm sure he's taking
right.
something
He's
or
dosing on the
drinking
side.
on the sly.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well,
There
they
is no
have
doubt. He's a drunk.
the
Mhm.
military has access to, and so does the NIH, and I'm sure RFK would give him some of it. Treatments that will make that can chemically undo alcohol
Oh,
addiction. That they've been playing with it. It's
okay.
not. It'll probably be a while before it clears the FDA. But there's been talk about this for a long time that they used it in a way to like they started developing it so that when people came back from a war zone, a lot of people turned to alcohol and drugs,
Right.
and they were
Yeah.
working on ways to protect veterans, inside the VA. Like maybe
Right.
there's an injection we can give you that just makes the alcohol not work, so that you stop doing it. They
Yeah.
start
It's
weaning
like
you
that
off it.
Antabuse or whatever,
Yes,
right?
right.
That used to do that. Yeah, but
Yep.
and that well, just to point out something that you just said about how when people come back from war, they start drinking, they have PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And I always point out that that just goes to show us that we're really not supposed to be in this conflict with each other. Because if we're supposed I mean, yes, human beings have always been in conflicts, but it has adverse mental health effects on us, and whereas
Well,
being cooperative, giving a shit about each other, that doesn't
yeah,
trigger
but
any kind of negative.
yeah, I mean, I appreciate your sort of utopian view of people getting together kind of
Yeah,
magically at some
but
point, but in reality, a section of your populace with PTSD is always better than the majority of them being raped and murdered and enslaved, and that's why most people
hmm
like over time have fought
that's
wars or
true.
whatever. And there is, I will say,
No, I
and
hear you.
it,
I hear you. But I'm just saying we shouldn't, no, I mean, we're on the right side of humanity,
yes,
we
right,
give a shit about people.
that's right,
And that's, you know, it's
that's right.
life affirming and
I
you don't
agree.
get PTSD from that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah.
Well, bad friendships being what they are, I'm sure everybody can find
True.
PTSD somewhere. There's varying degrees of it, but I appreciate you being on, by the way, and staying over as
Oh,
well.
thank you.
And you have
Of course.
since it's you have a show late today. Your show's on Friday,
Tonight.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
tonight.
Yeah, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the Tarabuster YouTube channel, youtube.com/Seafood channel/Tarabuster. A lot of sparklers hanging out on
Nice.
Tarabuster at night. And because you do your show in the evening as well. You do
Yes.
like 50 shows a week, right? So they
Yes.
come after you, they
Yes.
come over and
Well,
hang out with
do you
me.
stream on Twitch as well?
I do, but I'm not. I mean, I have my restream set to
Yeah.
go to Twitch, so but
Great.
I don't really put a lot of like
That's
love
okay, because
into it, but I really need to.
we can raid you if you're on right
Oh,
after us. So
really?
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So if
Oh,
I'm on
okay.
when you're
I
coming
have to
on,
figure that out.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay.
I can.
I'll
You don't have to
send
do
you this.
anything. You don't have to
Yeah.
do anything. We'll just
Oh.
follow you, and then on there, and then we can raid you, and then
Oh,
people
that.
who are in
I
my chat room
mean.
can just jump straight to yours if they want to.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
wondrul.
You
Thank
know,
you. That would be
that's what
wonderful.
we do
Yeah.
around here. A
I
rising tide lifts all
know, and
boats.
I love it.
We are on the non-aggression side of humanity. Um,
That's true. We
yeah,
help each other, and I
that's
think
right.
that's what the Republicans did right, really, or correctly.
Hmm.
They did that. They did that. That because they understood that they didn't have anything in reality to boast about. So they needed to spread their propaganda, catapult the propaganda, as George
Hmm.
W. Bush said.
That's right.
And they took their YouTube, shows like Diamond and Silk and whatnot, and they would bring them on Fox News. And there was all this cross promotion happening.
Right.
And so wherever you went, that's why when you Google political podcasts, all those right wing podcasts come up first. And that,
Yeah.
that shouldn't be the case. It
Right.
really shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah, because
Hey, I
we
got like
have the solutions.
that's right.
Yeah.
And I just surpassed 85.2 thousand subscribers. Thank you guys so much.
Oh,
But
lovely.
I'm eventually going to get 100K. We're going to get there, slow by hook or by crook. But I am definitely tamped down by the algorithm. There's no question.
Absolutely.
There
That's the
is,
problem too.
there's
Yeah.
absolutely pressure on my show, and I take it as a badge of honor. Also, I use
Yes.
big boy words,
That's what,
and that's
like
always going to
FDR
slow my
said,
roll. Yeah,
No,
that's right.
totally. Judge me by my enemies. And it is true. If they are suppressing liberal podcasting and
Mm-hmm.
we're speaking the truth
Yep,
to about the progressive solutions that not only created America, but built the middle class to
that's
begin
right.
with. And I do believe we'll save it again.
Right.
It's rather exhausting, but this is what we have
I
to
don't.
do. We
I
have no
find it. I
choice,
gotta say,
really.
I
We
find
don't.
it invigorating because I
I know
feel
you
like
love
you're on. Yeah, yeah.
it.
Because you know that you're doing something worthwhile based on the challenge that
Yes,
exists or whatever.
it's
We're not
true.
just like And again, not that it wasn't valuable that I came out and fought for the ACA when everybody was shitting on it back. When it first came out or whatever. And I feel that I
Right.
am vindicated 100% in my push for that, and all the naysayers and detractors and people who stole Democrat votes because they were like, it doesn't go far enough. I'm like, you get me 60 senators and 60% of the House, then we'll talk about getting you everything you want where you can take your ball and
Amen.
go the fuck home. But until you can
Amen.
convince, not
Yeah.
cajole, anger, and use fear or manipulation to control a voting bloc. Until you can convince those people that you're in the right, shut the fuck up.
Right.
Get in the back of the line. The
Absolutely.
rest of us are working on real solutions, and incremental change is the kind of change that
Yeah.
lasts.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And we have our work. We have a lot of work to do. Now, I
we do.
appreciate what you're saying too about how it is invigorating. That's why you're right.
Yes.
Even though I'm kind of, it gets a little. I do have a lot of anxiety about it,
Mm-hmm.
but I do know that eventually we will win. And what other choice do we have? We will win because we're on the right side
Mm-hmm.
of history, decency, dignity, democracy, humanity.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
I would also like to say,
It
and I'm
really
going to
is.
offer this up, and I know it is counter programming because anxiety has gained such value as a word.
Mm,
It's almost like one of the
okay.
stripes on the flag at this point. That a certain level of stress, that going to the gym is stress, going for a jog is
That's true.
stress, limiting your caloric intake so you're not just gorging yourself on sweets is
Yes.
technically stress temporarily for a better
Right.
return
You're right.
later.
Yep.
And that this is not anxiety, this is the stress of doing good. And the stress of doing good
Right.
has
Yep.
value.
Yep.
It
Yep.
is, that you're not really anxious. You're just engaged currently in the two marshmallow problem that
Mm,
that if you
mm.
can avoid the one marshmallow you get two later, and that requires work. It
Right.
requires limiting
Yeah.
what you get and denying yourself, which can make you feel anxious if you don't believe the two marshmallows are coming, right? So
Right.
I think people
That's so
these
true.
days
I love it.
assume like
Thank you.
a mental illness around the feeling that you have, as if anxious or anxiety, it almost
Yes.
goes to that whole, like, you're not paranoid if they're really out to get you. You're not anxious, you're stressed about the outcome of
Yeah.
something, and it's not some
Uh-huh.
abstract, it's not something that just sits there, and you can solve it by either being part of the solution or recognizing that the
Yes.
solution is out of your hands temporarily and refusing to acquiesce to it, going, I'm not going to feel the stress of
Hmm.
this because it is outside of my locus of control. That's what I call stoic optimism. You have to,
I love it.
you have a responsibility, morally, ethically, and for your own health, to reject worrying about anything directly outside your control and
You're
focus on
right.
that which is within. If you allow the anxiety of, oh my God, what's he going to say next, to ever enter your field of view, you won't be at your best to respond to whatever
Yes.
does happen. You'll be like, oh, here it comes, and you're not in a
That's
position
true.
to be the best Tara Devlin that can come up with the solutions and help everyone, that was in the National Guard and that is a great speaker. And you know what I mean? It dulls the
Mm,
pencil unnecessarily.
thank you.
It's
Yeah.
like it's
I
like
really
use
appreciate that.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
meaningful,
No,
and I
you
want everybody to be on their
mhm.
at their best, because we need
Right.
it when situations
Right.
are truly requiring a response from the best among us. Taking your pencil and dulling it, just scratching it on paper nervously, is not writing anything. It's not using it
Right.
for what it's for. And that's what effectively, anxious thought is. And it requires not just I think medication or dismissal. It requires rebuttal. It requires
Yeah.
an element of fuck that. And
Right.
that's why I think people respond so much to the whole like we need fighters. What they really want is somebody to say fuck that to the anxiety that they're feeling
Mm, mm, mm,
forcefully.
mm.
Um,
You're right.
and so they any fighting looks good, which is how Trump gained the coalition that he got and got into power, was because he was, even if his answer's stupid, saying fuck that to whatever's making you anxious.
Right.
Prices, immigrants, men and
Yes.
women's bathrooms, whatever's making you
Uh-huh.
upset.
Yeah,
If
weird things
even if he's
changing,
wrong, just the fact that he said fuck that made them feel better. It made them breathe easy. And my response is,
Right.
then don't let other people be responsible for what makes you breathe easy. Breathe easy.
Right.
Because that's, if you're going to do something difficult, if you're going to do something challenging, take control of your emotional state. Know that you have the capability within you. Breathe deep and get ready, because if there was a car that flipped over on the freeway, uh, what what would be your better value? Running over there and helping get the people out of it, and going, okay, I gotta not trip and fall. I gotta breathe deep. I gotta focus on.
Yeah,
We are in short
right.
time. What do we got? What tools do we have to break the windows and get these people out and help them? Or
Mm.
pulling over on the other side of the road and going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god,
Yeah,
right?
right. This is
That's what.
horrible. This is horrible.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You're
again,
right.
maybe getting out of the way is the best thing that you can do. Maybe you're not the person that needs to run up there because of ailment and illness and physical limitations or whatever. Maybe you're the
Mhm.
person that just has to call 911. Maybe that's it. But
Right.
the point is, make yourself useful as well as ornamental, as my mother would say. And
Thank
you
you.
certainly are that, Tara Devlin.
Oh,
So
thank you.
thanks for
Thank
being
you.
on the
Hal,
show.
right back at you.
Have a great
Really.
show tonight, and hopefully
Wonderful.
we'll CSL and I will jockey back and forth for who can throw the show your way after we go off the air.
Thank you. And
Yeah,
we'll talk soon again. All
I
right.
insist. All right,
Oh,
talk to you
yes,
later.
definitely.
Yes. All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks
See
a
you
ton.
soon.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
ladies and gentlemen, Tara Devlin, who also indeed does rock. And thank you guys for being here. I felt like that had to turn into my own TED talk at the end, but it's true. Like I feel like the language around exhaustion eats up so much function, because people, it's like online, because everything happens verbally with people talking back and forth. There's a lot of talk, not a lot of do, no matter what. Even posting is that, is still talk, even if you're posting something that you care about, and you're putting your 2 cents in, and you're adding you're putting your thumb on the scale on the side that you care, right? Um, that allowing them to exhaust you is in and of itself acquiescing. It is obeying in advance. And I'm not faulting anybody for feeling exhausted. I'm offering you a pathway out of it if it works. If it doesn't, you do you. But for a lot of people, some people just need the permission, it seems, to not have to like allow their emotions to be hijacked by someone else. You don't have to. You can keep your calm and keep your cool and still be 100% helpful. You're allowed. And again, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But if it gives you a break and allows you to breathe deep, you will be more helpful to getting us out of this mess. That's what I think. And if you want, there are plenty of people all over the internet that will tell you the exact opposite. And so I'm glad, if diversity, if you truly believe diversity is our strength, then consider mine a diverse opinion. How about that? If you really believe diversity is our strength, and I'm saying something that people don't normally say about this shit, then just stack it on. Well, we need a little bit. We got to hear all sides. This is another one, and I'm just trying to help and show off a little bit. Let's be completely honest. I'm always trying to show off as well. That's my thing. Meanwhile, keep smiling, keep laughing, and be ready with 100 goods to make up for a single bad, a single evil that you see. See you this afternoon. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc. The algorithm is attacking me. Most of the people who watch aren't subscribed. That's just true. So maybe some of you could. Maybe.
Screen glows bright with a crooked smile.
Yeah, at the very least, hit that like.